Hey everybody, Jim Williams here. Sean will be with us in a little while. Let's take a look at what's going on. The big information today, obviously, is Man City and Arsenal. It's a gargantuan top of the table Premier clash. Arsenal's 5 points ahead of the reigning champions, but they've lost their grip on the title over recent weeks, drawing successful games against Liverpool and West Ham, along with, of course, Southampton. So here's the situation. City has 2 games in hand, and it can take control of the battle of glory, as the old saying goes, if they can beat you know um, Chelsea by a 1-0, a 1-0 score today, 3-0, and that would eliminate them from really any kind of uh, serious contention. So the key today, Man City can end it, but they need to put a big number on the board. Frankly, whoever wins this really has the inside track. So it's Arsenal and Man City that we're going to be keeping an eye on. That game will start in approximately an hour. Okay, so that's the one you want to watch today, Man City and Arsenal. Let's get through the scoreboard here as we got afternoon baseball. Top of the 6th, it's the Cincinnati Reds beating the Texas Rangers by a score of 3-2. Bottom of the 4th, the Orioles, surprising Orioles, are beating the Red Sox by a score of 2-1. By the way, that's a one-hitter so far in the 4th. White Sox, Blue Jays. The Jays are up on the Sox by a score of 3-1. Out in Cleveland, they are up on the Rockies by a score of 3-0. Yankees, top of the 4th, are trouncing the Twins by a score of 7-1 on Aaron Judge's birthday. The Brewers, 3-0 on the Tigers. We have a couple of afternoon games that will start a little later, and that would be the 3:40 start for the Diamondbacks as they host the Kansas City Royals on a get-out-of-town day. Another get-out-of-town day is the Pirates and the Dodgers. That's a 6:35 start. The Rays, who lost their first game at home this year, okay, so they won 14 and they lost later yesterday, so that's the 15th game at home. They're 14-1. They take on the Astros tonight at the Trop. That's at 6:40. Also at 6:40, the Phillies and the Mariners at the Bank in Philadelphia. The Mets and the Nationals are an evening game starting at 7:10. You got the Marlins and the Braves again starting at 7:20. And then 7:40, we've got the Cubs hosting the Padres, the Angels, and the Athletics at 9:38 out of the Big A in Anaheim. And topping off today's baseball schedule will be the Giants and the Cardinals. That game being played at in San Francisco. Okay, so that's your scoreboard. We'll keep you updated on that one. NHL. Let's take a look at what's going to be the schedule for tonight. If you're watching Stanley Cup, a few very interesting games coming up tonight. Florida and Boston, that should be a good game. That's going to be played at the Garden, 7 o'clock. That's an ESPN game. Then later in Colorado at 9:30 as part of the doubleheader, again on ESPN, it's going to be the defending champion Colorado Avalanche taking on the Kraken from Seattle. Tomorrow, Toronto has the opportunity to eliminate Tampa Bay. That's going to be on TBS, and that game will be a 7 p.m. puck drop. The Rangers and Devils, that game's on ESPN2, the Deuce, at 7:30. Then the 10 o'clock game, Vegas and Winnipeg, which should be a really outstanding game. That's going to also be on the Deuce at 7. That's a 10 p.m. puck drop. So there's your hockey action for today and tomorrow. The NBA, again, some outstanding games tonight. Gets underway. The Knicks, who have been the surprise, and no question about it, they have been the surprise team of the NBA this year, and they are the surprise team of the playoffs. They can end it all tonight with a win over the Cavaliers in Cleveland. That game, 7 o'clock tip on NBA TV. The Lakers and the Grizz, that one. The Lakers can end the series tonight in Memphis if they can take out the Grizzlies. That game is a tip at 7:30 on TNT. 9:30 again, back over on NBA TV. You got the Miami Heat and the Bucks, and there's the surprise. Miami leads the Bucks by a 3-1 margin. So if they can knock them off tonight, then it's over for the Bucks. If not, then they're going to go to South Beach for a game on Friday night. The nightcap, and this has been a fantastic series so far. It's tied at 2-2. The Golden State Warriors, the defending NBA champions, will be in Sacramento to play the Kings. Now, this is one of those games where, one of those series where you've got two teams who have, frankly, they've been able to win it, at home, but not on the road. So you got to figure, if the Warriors can take one here tonight, in that 10 o'clock game, it's going to be, that puts them in great shape as they head back to San Francisco for a game 5. So this is critical. This is a game 5 for game 6. If the Warriors can get by Sacramento tonight, then that puts them in the driver's seat to win out. If Sacramento, on the other hand, takes the game, that puts the pressure on the Warriors going back to San Fran. So that's what we got tonight in the association. Let's check on some headlines here. Jalen Brunson has turned his playoff weaknesses into a strength, as we know, for the wonderful New York Knicks. They've been doing some really good work out there. The NFL mock draft, 3 quarterbacks in the top 4. Now, this is supposed to be a huge year for the quarterbacks, and we'll see. At this point in time, here's where everybody thinks it's going to happen, okay? And that is that Bryce Young is a lock for the Carolina Panthers. He's going to be the first draft choice overall. Of course, Bryce Young playing his football under Nick Saban at Alabama. So they're expecting that he's going to be the first round draft choice tomorrow night at the NFL draft in Kansas City. CJ Stroud is, someone who could be the number 2 pick, but at the moment, you don't know. And here's the top 10 mock draft from Joel Kraft at Fox Sports. He says Carolina's going to take Bryce Young, Alabama. The Panthers are very excited about it. He says he agrees that with this pick, because Bryce is the top quarterback available, his process of information on the field is quick, and he's a magician when he gets the ball. He can rush. He can also do well in the pocket. So Bryce Young's got all the skills to make it work for the Carolina Panthers. We'll see how that works out. Houston, Texas. Now they could go. The Texans could go with C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. Now Stroud, he's a bona fide franchise quarterback, according to Clot of Fox. I don't know whether I agree on this, but name me the last quarterback from Ohio State that was successful. It's been a long time, my friends. So I'm not so sure about that. But Houston is likely to take C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of the Ohio State University. Arizona Cardinals, Will Anderson. It's a good choice. Will Anderson is an edge rusher from Alabama. Probably the best defender in the draft. As I said, he really isn't a guy who puts his hand down in the grass and rushes. He's an edge rusher. So basically he stands up and comes off the edge. Either they line him up on the right or the left side, and we'll see how that goes. Here's a surprise to me, and I'm a Gator fan, but Anthony Richardson, who really didn't have a good season last year. I mean, let's be honest. The Gators were 6-6. That's, un-Gator-like. And Anthony Richardson is, no one's going to argue that Anthony Richardson is not a phenomenal athlete. He is. but he just didn't have a good season, the senior season. And to be the 4th overall pick, he had a heck of a camp, and he really looked good out at the draft combine. But man, the 4th overall pick, the Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. Ooh, it's a stretch, but hey, stranger things have happened. They like him, and they feel that he's going to be. He's got the athleticism to play. I don't think there's anybody that would argue that Anthony Richardson is not a phenomenal athlete. It's just, he was such a raw quarterback there last year for the Gators at the Swamp. I don't know. That's one of those ones where we're going to have to see how it plays out. Seattle Seahawks at the 5 slot takes Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. Now, Carter is, he's had some off the field issues, but overall, Pete Carroll is the kind of guy who takes people like that and molds them into phenomenal athletes and phenomenal people off the field. So maybe it'd be a good thing. So we went through the first 5 picks. We haven't gotten out of the SEC yet, guys. So that's kind of an interesting thing, kind of tells you where the power is. And we're going to make our first trip out of the SEC, and that's to the Pac-12, where the Detroit Lions is expected to get Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, Oregon. He is a beast. He's one of the best cornerbacks that we've seen in many years. The Lions basically need a lot of defensive help. Now, on the offensive side, they're playing pretty well, so that's a good thing. But defensively, not so much. They have a chance with Aaron Rodgers moving, from Green Bay to win that division. I mean, frankly, you got to think that the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings are, neck and neck in that situation. So Detroit picking a cornerback because they do need offense. They don't need, they do need defense. They don't need offense. Should be quite a good addition there. So we'll see. Christian Gonzalez, if he's on the board at that point, cornerback, Oregon, can't argue with that. He's the best defensive back in the draft. Let's go to Las Vegas in the number 7 slot. That's Devin Witherspoon, also a cornerback, but out of the University of Illinois. Now, he's a little bit of a best way to put it is that he is physical, but he's not as quick. So does that mean he's not going to be good? No, it just means that he plays a different style than Gonzalez plays. So, he's number 2 on the depth chart from quarterback spot, University of Illinois to Vegas, Devin Witherspoon. The Falcons, who need a lot of everything. Atlanta's going to go with Tyree Wilson. He's an edge rusher out of Texas Tech. The Falcons need to get the quarterback quick. Defensively, they've got a lot of pressure on the quarterback from the inside. They just don't have it from the outside. Tyree Wilson is a tremendous athlete. He's got a lot of upside. He's got great length, got great athleticism. He's tough against the run. He would certainly be a guy who would help the Falcons. The problem is he has had some health issues. He's going to have to stay healthy to be a helpful guy to the Falcons. So Texas, Tyree Wilson puts the Big 12 on the board. The Ohio State University is where the Chicago Bears are going to go, and that's to get an offensive tackle. And they're going to get Paris Johnson, offensive tackle at the Ohio State University. He should know. I mean, Jason Fields, who was there at quarterback, was also with him at Ohio State. So, if you're going to put your chips in the middle of the table, and if you're going to ride with Justin Fields, he's got to be protected. So, your blindside tackle is your guy, and Paris Johnson from the Ohio State University is a very, very good offensive tackle, probably the best offensive lineman in the draft, and he certainly will help the Bears' offensive line. And he knows, as I said before, his old teammate Justin Fields, who is the quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes now, potentially, according to Fox, very good chance that he's going to end up in the 9th position with the Chicago Bears. Rounding out the top 10, the Philadelphia Eagles is going to go for a running back, and that's Bijan Robinson from Texas. Now, man, I don't know. This one is a tough one for me. What Fox thinks about the Eagles' best roster in football, but they do have to have some running, and they like Bijan Robinson out of Texas. He's not a big back, which is a bit surprising. And I might, I don't know, Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA, to me, is a better running back than Brian Robinson from Texas. But we'll see what the Eagles do when they're, when the slot comes up there at the 10 spot. He certainly can help Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen was enough to spend a lot of time running his own situation. So having a back is a luxury that that they can have. But if it were me, I think I'd take Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA over Bijan Robinson from Texas. But that's me. The Titans of Tennessee, they're going to go for quarterback Will Levis. Will Levis from Kentucky is the guy that they're looking at. Now he's physically stereotypical, drop back passer. He's physically he's 6'5", 240, which is a good build for a quarterback. He's not a runner. He's definitely a pass guy. He can run to get away if he needs to be, but he is someone who can give Tennessee a solid backup. I don't know that he would be the first guy off the bench for Tennessee as far as being their quarterback starting next year. I think maybe the good thing for him is he doesn't have to start. So he couldn't beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. So there is, to me, a little bit of a why this kid. Now he's smart and he's incredibly athletic from the standpoint of what I said before. He can throw. His mobility is a little bit different than the other quarterbacks on this list, as we talked about earlier. I don't know. They just like the kid. So let's see. Tennessee. We'll see if they take Will Levis in the 11th spot. The 12th spot goes to Houston again. And they're back again, this time getting a wide receiver. And they're going after another Ohio State kid. So that should be C.J. Stroud should know him. He threw to him in college. So if you get Stroud earlier, you need offensive help still. Jason Smith-Njigba makes sense. The two players were college teammates, as I said. A lot of experience together here. He's long, no question about that. He's got the height. He's got the ability to catch. He is a bona fide star. And so number 12 at Houston. We'll see. Sounds like a pretty decent idea. Green Bay Packers. Okay. Now, this is a pick they got from the New York Jets. As they sent Aaron Rodgers to the Jets for a small fortune of players and draft choices. Green Bay is going to take tight end Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. They have the option here to take a tight end off the board in Michael Mayer. He's a very good blocker. He can catch. He's shown really good abilities with Notre Dame. He's a very good character guy, good locker room guy. He was a captain of the team at Notre Dame, and well liked and well thought of. So, it's a safe pick. The Packers could use a tight end. They can always use somebody who can block as well. So they get 2 in part 1. That's Michael Meyer. 14, New England Patriots. Broderick Johnson, offensive tackle, Georgia. I can see New England trading out of this spot, 14, because they can get an offensive tackle in the second round. They don't really necessarily need an offensive tackle, but not disagreeing here with Fox, but I think that if we're going to see a team at this point that's going to move down in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised that Belichick and the Patriots move down. The New York Jets in 15. They can go for an offensive guard, which makes a lot of sense. You just got your your quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. You got to protect the man, and they're going to go with Pete Skonowski, an offensive guard out of Northwestern. He is probably the number 1 guard in the draft, and he's a big guy. He's 6'8" and about 295. So his job protecting Aaron Rodgers, and probably not a bad idea at this point. 16, Washington Commanders. They're going to go with the cornerback, Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. This is a good kid. He's a lot of help. He's, on defense. They need a lot of help. Joey Porter can do it. He is possibly the right person at the right time for them. He is a Deion Sanders kind of cornerback. Okay. He's got a lot of length, got a lineage. He's great with his hands. He may get picked earlier. Okay. He certainly may be picked earlier. But if he can fall down, to the 16th spot, best athlete on the board kind of situation, Ron Rivera is going to definitely want to take Joey Porter Jr., Penn State in the 16th spot. Moving down to 17, that's your Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going for an offensive tackle, and they do need offensive line help. Darnell Wright of Tennessee is coming to Pittsburgh, according to Fox. Unfortunately, the Steelers probably would like to have Joey Porter Jr., but as we just said, he's likely going to be gone. But if he isn't, they'll take him. If he is, they're going to go with Darnell Wright. As we said before, they definitely need some offensive line help, and Darnell Wright from Tennessee. That's a fantastic offense he played there. He knows how to protect the quarterback. That's his job. So we're looking for him. 18, and that's Kayla Cansey, defensive tackle from Pitt, going to the Detroit Lions. A good pick, actually. He did a lot of good work for Pitt last year, and we'll see. Kayla Cansey would be a good pick. Really super productive, high engine kind of guy. Played in 30 games for Pitt. Didn't get one minute, wasn't hurt at all. His behind the line of scrimmage production as a tackle spot is very rare. You really see somebody like that. He's explosive, and he's going to help that defensive line of the Detroit Lions. He is a beast. So if they can get a hold of him, they'll be fine. Baltimore Ravens can take Nolan Smith. He's an edge rusher out of Georgia. The Ravens have prided themselves year after year on picking really good defensive players, especially edge rushers, linebackers. We all know Ray Lewis and the beasts that they've had on their defensive line. Nolan Smith, the edge rusher out of Georgia, he is right there. He will fit in Baltimore really well. He's not one of those guys that puts his, as we said before, not a guy who puts his hand down in the dirt. He's more of a guy who's going to come flying at you from all sides. So keep an eye out for Nolan Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if Nolan Smith got picked prior to the number 19 spot, but we'll see. Fox says that's where he's going to be. We'll see. I had to get a little water there, folks. Okay. In the 20th spot, that's the Seattle Seahawks. They're going edge as well, and they're going south as well. They're going to take Clemson's Myles Murphy. Now, Myles Murphy was highly recruited and very active. He's a good athlete. He's better and has become better at defense. Now, he was a linebacker at first, but then when they decided to move Jalen Carter to the interior line, they decided, you know what, let's take Myles Murphy, flip him from the defensive line and put him out on the edge. And, Kirby Smart, not Kirby Smart, I'm sorry. Dabo Swinney, the coach at Clemson, knows what he's doing in that regard. And he saw Myles Murphy on the edge do some fantastic work for the Clemson Tigers. Meanwhile, 21st position, that goes to the Chargers in Los Angeles. Quentin Johnson, wide receiver, TCU. This guy, Quentin Johnson, is probably the best outside the numbers receiver in the draft, okay? Those of you who are not familiar with that term, outside the numbers is usually your speed guy. He's the guy who's going deep. You got Justin Herbert, phenomenal quarterback, great arm. Probably one of the best arms in the entire league as far as throwing the deep ball. And he hasn't had any deep receivers. I mean, he's had some, fantastic players on the team, but not necessarily any deep receiver. With Quentin Johnson from TCU, he's getting himself the kind of guy that Justin Herbert needs. And as I said before, he's your outside the numbers pass receiver, wide receiver. So keep an eye out the number 21 slot. Don't be surprised if Quentin Johnson isn't there by the time the Chargers pick. But if he is, definitely a choice. Buccaneers. Lucas Van Ness, an edge rusher out of Iowa. Now, the Buccaneers, don't be surprised if Jason Licht trades. The Buccaneers are in a position where, they can get some defense, and they really want more draft choices. So my guess is that, if a quality player is there at 22, the Buccaneers will be more than happy to take someone like a Lucas Van Ness or any number of people that we've listed already on the defensive side. However, if they think they can get what they need and do it later, much like the New England Patriots, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bucs decided to move further down in the, perhaps even out of the first round if they can get multiple draft choices. So, Lucas Van Ness to the Bucs in 22, maybe, and maybe the Buccaneers trade out of the first round. Minnesota Vikings running back wide receiver, Jordan Addison out of USC. Jordan Addison's a fantastic wide receiver. He's a little undersized. He's more of a slot guy. He can play outside of the numbers if he needs to, but I'd rather, frankly, I think he's going to be a slot receiver, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And certainly the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins can use a slot receiver. So don't look for him to play outside. Look for him to be inside. And if Jordan Addison from USC is around on the 23rd pick, he will become, hopefully for him, a Minnesota Viking. Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going defense. They got all kinds of offense. They don't need that. So the Jaguars are going to make, a short trip for Brian Branch, cornerback from Alabama, coming down I-10 from Alabama over to Jacksonville. The Jaguars, have improved a lot. We know that, but they really still need some help on defense. This is a hybrid position that they're going to put him in. It's what Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is a beast, who plays for the Steelers, played at Alabama, And Saban, liked using Brian Branch in that same kind of Mika Fitzpatrick role. And so, look for, again, he's a cornerback, but he's not really a cornerback. I mean, he's kind of like a cornerback slash lineman. Linebacker slash safety. I mean, that's what Saban has done with Mika Fitzpatrick and some other players like that. So Brian Branch is not your stereotypical cornerback. I mean, he can play that position and does it very well, but he also can play the run. He can play, he can cover tight ends. He can do a lot of things and do it well. So, which is not what you normally see in a traditional just cornerback. So if he's still there, Brian Branch would be a good choice for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, as we said, can use a little defense. The New York Football Giants, Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver, Tennessee. Well, it makes sense. The Giants could use wide receivers, and Tennessee has had some really good wide receivers in the past few years. They tend to go with long guys who have, they're tall, they're fast, and again, mostly not outside the number guys. Those are usually a little smaller, speed demon kind of guys. This guy is your slot receiver, your possession receiver, and Jalen Hyatt wouldn't be a bad choice for the New York Giants or anyone else prior to that, but definitely there. Okay, now the Dallas Cowboys in the 26th spot. He says, meaning Fox Sports says, Dalton Kincaid, tight end, Utah. This guy's potentially a steal. Okay. Dalton Kincaid is absolutely a phenomenal blocker. He's a flex tight end. He, is with Cam Rising. Cam Rising, I mean, he and Cam Rising, the two of them together. I don't know if you remember the game between Utah and USC that was played at Utah. It was a phenomenal game. Dalton Kincaid basically just ripped that place to pieces. I mean, he was phenomenal and did a phenomenal job there. So Dalton Kincaid would be a wonderful pickup for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, he was injured at the end of the season. From everything I've read, he seems to be in good stead. He's coming back. He should be fine. He is probably he's an underrated tight end, personally, in my opinion. He could be the steal of the draft on the tight end side. And if you got to Dallas, well, we'd see how Dak Prescott could get the ball there. So Dalton Kincaid, tight end, Utah, 26th position to the Dallas Cowboys. So Fox says. Buffalo Bills, going to take a running back, Alabama, Jamar Gibbs. Jamar Gibbs is, like Najee Carter. When Najee came to the Steelers, he did really well. No reason to believe Jamar Gibbs can't do the same for the Buffalo Bills. Let's be honest, he's playing, in an offense that does need some running. Right now, Josh Allen is their biggest running threat. But I think that this kid, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's easily good for 30 to 40 catches in a game. Once the ball is in his hands, he's an elusive guy. He's tough. He's physically difficult to bring down in space. He's not necessarily a power runner. He's a back that runs between the tackles. But you know what? He could be a surprise for Buffalo. So Jamar Gibbs, running back, Alabama, 27th position, Buffalo Bills. 28th position, that belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going tight end. They're going Darnell Washington, Georgia. Good pick. He fills a need. Cincinnati is in need of a tight end. Darnell Washington is a big boy, good blocker. as you would expect, because he played for Georgia. He knows how to win, and he's been around the SEC, so he's seen those edge rushers we've been talking about. He knows how to take them down. So not a bad. He's a blocking. He can block. He's not really blocking specialist, but he can. He's a flex out guy, so he can give you some routes. I mean, he's one of those tight ends that you can line up in the slot and use. So he's a very versatile kid. And so tight end out of Georgia, Darnell Washington, Cincinnati Bengals. That's pretty good. That would be, I'm sure they'd be happy if they got it. 29th position, New England. So New Orleans Saints in that position. Brian Brees, defensive tackle, Clemson. Clemson's had some beasts on the defensive side of the ball, and Brian Brees is one of them. He had an ACL issue. Unfortunately, his sister, Ella, passed away from cancer. She was only 15 years old. He personally got sick with a kidney infection and didn't get to play some of the time last year. But he's been able to build himself back. He's going to be an excellent pro. Not necessarily right off the get-go, but the Saints don't need him to be one of those guys right from day one. So we'll see how it works out. He might be one of those guys who falls, but it's a steal. Philadelphia Eagles in the 30th spot are going to go after cornerback out of the state of Maryland, playing for the Terps, Dante Banks. Now, Dante Banks is someone who can absolutely fly. He can play corner. He can always be used, as well on punt and kickoff returns. He's one of those guys who he had a shoulder injury once in 2021. He played well through it. He came back in the 2022 season, and he's one of those guys at corner who we talked about, a Dion corner. He's a guy who, he jumps routes and usually taps the ball away from you, and not necessarily as a tackler, but push comes to shove, Dante Banks will tackle people. But he definitely is one of those guys who he's going to fit well because he can play special teams. He can play corner. So he's in a myriad of opportunities there for the Eagles. They already have the most talented roster in football, so why not just add another good one too? Kansas City, 31 on our list. Zach Flowers, wide receiver, Boston College. Now, giving Patrick Mahomes another wide receiver is a very good chance. If Zach Flowers is around at that point, it should be interesting. He's explosive. He is a guy who could have made a lot of money staying in school because a lot of people wanted to throw some NIL money at him. If you spoke to the coaching staff at Boston College, they would tell you that Zach is an elite player. He's going to be in the NFL. He possibly, as we said, could be in the first round at 31 position. He could fall down to the second round, but he's still got the speed, the ability to block. He's very good on running plays as a block. This is a guy who really is passionate about playing and would fit Andy Reid's system really, really well. So that's your look at the NFL draft, which we know will be tomorrow's first round. It's on the NFL Network. It's on ESPN. It's on ABC. You can get it on Fox Sports Radio, ESPN Radio, CBS Radio. My recommendation, if you're not one of those people who just have to be a geek and see everything, I would go to CBS Sports HQ. Download it. It's free. It's going to be on your phone. You put it on your connected device and television. You can get it anywhere. It's not a lot of stuff that's a lot of junk. It's a lot of really good old school talk. You're not getting a lot of people whose opinion you don't really care about. They definitely have a really wonderful opportunity. So I would strongly suggest downloading CBS's app. It's a great app on your phone. You can look at it in tablet. You can also check it out on your connected TV. So draft tomorrow starts at 8 o'clock on ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network. And of course, we know that that they will be playing in the draft again on Friday night, where you get rounds 2 and 3, and then everything else is on Saturday. Let's take one last look at the scoreboard before we get out of here today. Bottom of the 8th, Cincinnati Reds still leading the Texas Rangers still by a run 3-2. Red Sox are losing to the Orioles by a score 4-2 at this point. And that game's in the 6th. Also in the 6th, the Blue Jays lead the White Sox 4-0. Again in the 6th, the Guardians 3 and the Rockies 1. In the Bronx, man, they are just pouring it on. The Yankees 11, the Twins 6. I'm sorry, the Twins 3 in the 6th. In the top of the 4th, Brewers seem to have control over Detroit. Oh, wait a minute. They just changed that score literally as I was reading it. It's now 5-2. It was 5-0. So the Tigers have bounced back for a couple of runs. Getting started in about 40 minutes in the desert. It'll be the Diamondbacks hosting the Rockies. No, Royals, not Rockies. The Buccos and the Dodgers playing at PNC Park in Pittsburgh tonight. That game first pitch is 6:35, 6:40 at the Trop. It'll be the Astros and the Rays. At the Bank in Philadelphia, it's going to be the Phillies and the Mariners. That's a 6:40 start, 7:10. Okay, at Citibank, it's going to be the Mets hosting the Nationals. The Braves at Truist will be hosting the Marlins. That's a 7:20 start. 7:40 start, Cubs and the Padres at Wrigley. At the Big A in Anaheim tonight at 9:38 Eastern Time, first pitch, Angels and the Athletics. And closing out our schedule of baseball for today at 9:45. It'll be out in Chinatown in the beautiful ballpark out there. It'll be the Giants and the Cardinals. Giants hosting the Cardinals out there. Mats against DeStefani. So there you go, gang. All right. We've had a fun opportunity to take a look at the draft and see what's going on. It's been entertaining. We will be getting back our buddy we'll be getting back tomorrow and having Sean back, and we will also have Amadeus back. So the boys will be back in town. Don't forget, this big game in soccer this afternoon, Man City and Arsenal. So keep a lookout for it. And as we said before, it's likely to decide who wins this year's, Premier League. So by all means, keep a lookout for it. So for my buddies, Sean and Amadeus, I'm Jim. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Take care.